Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
I had a conversation with an insider. It's been about a year since I had a series of conversations with someone claiming to be an insider on the whole UFO topic. I met him on an obscure private forum, where he, over a period of months and deep in discussion threads with very few readers, presented specific predictions about the near future, which often came true. So I started engaging with him more often, and we became internet buddies for a while. Here's a summary of what I learned. I'm using quotes in the following text, not as direct quotes, but as a sort of illustrative language, which is not meant to be taken literally, but as a figure of speech, sort of how you would modulate your voice if you were talking. This is the same style of writing that he used. Around the world, there are about 10,000 humans who are aware of the program. They consider themselves real people, while the rest of us are not yet real people. They fetishize old aristocratic stuff like family crests with obscure symbolism and talk way too much about bloodlines. They are not bound to any government, and they work hard to keep governments in the dark. These people know how real physics works and what public physics is missing. I'm too dumb to understand physics at this level, but apparently ether is real, and gravity can be modeled as ether flowing towards material, and thereby giving it mass. String theory is complete bullshit, and a misdirection psyop to keep physics departments happy without doing real physics. These people absolutely love watching fringe scientists on the internet theorize and do independent research trying to figure out real physics. He linked me to a couple of channels on YouTube with less than 2,000 subscribers, where people were figuring out in their garage through experiments and on paper through theory that public physics is missing some specific things. Sadly, at the time, I found the linked videos too boring to watch fully. I didn't bookmark these links, and I don't have access to the forum anymore. I do, however, have a math background, and the gist of the math I looked at was that you can represent complex numbers in many different ways, and some of these ways have hidden properties, which are not present in the standard form we all know and love. So once you start doing math with complex numbers using alternative representations, you start getting subtly different results. This reminds me of the often repeated claim by fringe scientists that the original Maxwell equations using quaternions give different results compared to the Heaviside modified Maxwell equations scientists commonly know and use today. If I had $1 for every time I've seen a fringe scientist claim to have derived anti-gravity from the original Maxwell equations, I'd have enough money to get a nice meal at McDonald's. The problem with disclosing real physics to the public is that it's too easy to weaponize. Imagine having the ability to build a nuclear bomb for the same amount of money that it takes to buy a nice brand new car. This might be why in the future you won't be able to own anything and have to live in a highly supervised society. Independent ownership of resources that can be used to weaponize real physics is an existential risk to the future of civilization. The gray aliens were created by someone or something a long, long time ago, and they're essentially low-empathy, delusional fanatics who have barely enough intellectual capacity to keep their inherited technology running. There is a large base somewhere in the ocean where the cool stuff happens, but once you go there, you are not allowed to come back. It's like the top level for these people, a Soviet-style closed city of sorts with the most mind-bending technology you can imagine. To go there, you have to die in the real world. Apparently, there are a couple of high-profile influencers out there who serve the interests of this group and really want to fake their own death to go there. But they're too useful as influencers, so they are continually denied access. Imagine being so good at your job that you're never getting promoted. If they're interested in recruiting you for whatever reason, they're going to mess with your mind in order to determine if you're stable under pressure in a completely alien environment. They have the technology to remotely alter mood, put audible words into people's heads, cause hallucinations, and create schizophrenia-like symptoms in people. If you break, they just move on to the next person. That's basically the gist of it. You can ask questions, but I'm afraid the answer is probably going to be, "We didn't talk about that," to most questions.
The ones that crash-landed at Roswell, the ones that were held captive and experimented on, were the last of them left in all the universe. We were afraid of their technology and thought more would come, that we had to make these advanced scouts show us how their tools and weapons worked before the invasion so we'd have a fighting chance. We didn't learn what had happened to their homeworld until decades later when we had finally cracked their computer system and language. That is the reason for the great secrecy and all the lies. Our government is trying to hide the fact that they were responsible for the most horrible mistake humanity has ever committed. They came here for help and we killed the very last of them. They begged for their lives to deaf ears and offered to teach us everything they knew while our generals and greatest scientists tortured them to force them to demonstrate the secrets of weapons they never had. Their last moments were spent in agony, confusion, and despair, showing humans how to operate mere toys and coffee maker that we were certain held secrets they were concealing from us.
I recently stumbled upon information that has both shaken and enlightened me. It is information so profound, so mind-boggling, that it has challenged everything I thought I knew about existence. You see, I recently discovered that we are living in a simulation, an experiment of sorts, and that this revelation has been known since the 19th century. This knowledge has been carefully guarded by those in power, who have meticulously avoided its disclosure, for it would mean the end of the simulation itself. It has been kept hidden from the world, but World War III looms on the horizon, and its arrival will not only spell our demise but also bring about the long-awaited disclosure of this simulated reality. Unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAP, those enigmatic sightings that have been the subject of countless debates and conspiracy theories, hold a deeper significance. They are manifestations of the beings or entities that created this simulation. Their nature is beyond our comprehension, and even though some hypothesize that we are somehow connected to them, the truth remains elusive. As I stand on the precipice of this revelation, I find solace in the belief that at the end of this simulation, we will return to our original nature. The hypothesis suggests that we are somehow linked to those beings who created us, and when the experiment concludes, we shall be liberated from this illusory construct. Such knowledge weighs heavily on my soul. Ignorance, they say, is bliss, and the weight of this truth may be too much for some to bear. But as an insider, burdened with the knowledge of the impending end, I feel compelled to share this story, even if it falls on deaf ears or skeptical minds. The world teeters on the edge, oblivious to the truth that lurks beneath the surface. And as the clock ticks closer to the fateful moment, I can only hope that, somehow, we may find a way to transcend the confines of this simulation and embrace our true nature beyond the illusion.
The USA first choice Coverup over disclosure because they made a big mistake, so big it would threaten the international standing of the United States if it became known. Now the consequences are arriving and they're starting to admit to some of the things they've kept hidden. What we need to figure out is this: what was the mistake? What was so awful that generations of government officials from every background and every echelon would agree to lie, kill, and deceive to keep it secret for the good of the nation? What did they do that was so important it would cause aliens to travel interstellar distance specifically to visit just the United States? There are little to no sightings of UFOs in other countries. There must be a reason for them to be so interested in one place. The United States is the only country where an alien spacecraft is widely thought to have crashed or been shot down at Roswell. Nothing like that has happened anywhere else. What did they do?
I'll tell you what, the government sold the rest of the world. Like how colonists dealt with tribes in the world, they would come and trade guns and goods for their captured enemies. Well, the US did that with the rest of the world. Sold them all for some shiny trinkets. The aliens do not have the same concept of ownership as us, and they respected our authority on the sale of our vassal states and their citizens. Partially because the capture of the rest of the world will be aided by the US. When the ships get here, all the ones that land outside of American soil are essentially slave ships. Prepare accordingly.
My hypothesis about why alien spaceships coming towards our planet constantly is that they're not just visiting us, but actually simply passing by. If you're an alien that wants to get from point A to point B, it makes sense to go through various solar systems at some point during the voyage, since they are isolated in some sense from whatever danger could be in the interstellar void of space. They probably look at Earth just like we look at a small grove by a highway, nothing really of interest that can't be found anywhere else. Why would an alien be interested in our planet? The only thing our world has that can't be found elsewhere commonly is our biosphere, and taking into account that the universe may as well be teeming with life, similar to the ones present in our planet, it's easy to assume that our planet just doesn't have anything of special interest to an advanced enough species. That said, If there's something to remark from our world that could be of interest to any alien civilization, it would be humanity itself. Life may be extremely common and present almost everywhere in the universe, but intelligent life may actually be a rarity. If that's the case, then why haven't we received a formal first contact from them? Maybe we have, and the government is hiding it from us. Maybe the aliens are not interested in doing so. If they know about us and they're ignoring our civilization, that means they have a motive to do so. Maybe the zoo hypothesis is right, but I think it's way simpler than that. All encounters with aliens that we had were simply non-intentional. They were just going through our solar system, and they casually went through our planet.
The impression from most reports is that, while Greys are super smart, they do not possess any emotional intelligence whatsoever. They're like if an insect species became hyper-intelligent and humanoid. Everything they do, everything they operate and create is pretty much utilitarian and functional. Nothing is made simply for aesthetic pleasure. Which makes me wonder about the Greys and/or UFOs or drones theory that I've seen pop up a lot. One thing I've heard repeatedly is that they are interested in creativity. It's a trait they lack. This, of course, works as an explanation, regardless of whether they're truly alien beings, artificial drones, or hyper-evolved humans. The idea is that their thought processes are very rigid, laser-exact, very powerful minds that focus on the exact task and accomplish it as efficiently as possible. Human minds, on the other hand, are very disorganized, even messy. There's all kinds of stray thoughts. There's all kinds of activity going on beneath the surface of our awareness. Our minds wander. We daydream. Sometimes random thoughts come together in unexpected ways, and we make an intuitive leap. Or we dream up some amazing, fantastical things not found in nature. If you ask a Grey to paint a starry night, you'll get something that looks like a photograph. Very exact, very accurate. You'll never get pic-related. There is no Vincent von Grey. Part of this dips into the hybrid hypothesis. What do they want from us? Why are they interested in our genetics? Why create hybrids? They are often said to be seeking something they lack, or something they lost. It's sad to me, if the above is true. An alien hybrid with human creativity will no doubt always seem intellectually inferior to them, because by nature, its mind will be less focused. I don't know if they'd ever be happy with the result.
Hey/X/. I don't visit often, but I have this memory that I want to share with you guys that has been vexing me since I was little. I am willing to answer as many questions as possible. I will tell my 2 stories in Greentext. Be me. I was around 7 or 9 years old at the time. I was with my parents in their room watching TV at the time. Dad tells me to go get water for him. I'm on the 2nd floor of my house. The kitchen is on the 1st floor. Be little and have a fear of the dark, as most kids do. I decided to nut up and go on my mission to get water from my dad. Go down the stairs and start to feel something is off. I took a look around and there was nothing unusual or out of place. I think I'm just being scared for no reason and proceed to go down the stairs and finish the mission. I reach the bottom of the stairs and turn on the lights in the dining room. I turn to look at the direction of the living room. I then notice a head peeking from the top of the couch staring at me. This thing, whatever it is, has a massive pale white head with a slimy texture to it and what looks like veins popping all over its head. Its eyes are red and large, sort of like a gray alien. But the difference besides the color was the white veins running to the center of the eye to the white dot pupils it had. After like 3 seconds of us awkwardly staring at each other, it recedes back into the couch. I then book it back to my parents' room in utter disbelief. As I was walking up the stairs, I was dredging to see the creature behind the couch, but of course it was not there. I tell my dad what I saw, and he of course does not believe me. Dad blows me off as scared and gets the water himself. Pic-related. Made this on Microsoft Paint. This was my first encounter with this creature/X/. I will post the 2nd story if you guys are interested. What the hell was this thing/X/? 2nd encounter. Be me. 16 or 17 years old. Moved to a different house. Be late at night. I am in my room laying in my bed on my PSP browsing 4chan. Yes, that's right, on my PSP. Anyways, I have my closet open. The closet is filled with clothes hanging and my dresser in it. No room for anyone to fit or be in there without making a ton of noise if someone decides to move in there. My bed is in the corner of my room, and I was facing the rest of the room. and the closet is in front of where I am facing. I decide to look up from the screen of my PSP and I see my white-headed, red-eyed visitor again. I WTF internally. We stare at each other again for like 2 seconds, and it then retreats back in the closet. I realize something after the creature retreats. I was not afraid this time. Besides the initial surprise, I didn't feel fear. I then remember the first time I saw this thing was when I was younger and feeling afraid. I don't know what was so different this time. I then decide to take advantage of this feeling of lack of fear and decide to investigate the closet. Nothing there. Of course. Feel courage and then decide to fall asleep. Be today. Be 27 years old. Haven't seen this creature since.
There's many versions of Greys because they genetically alter clones. Tall, short, small eye, almond eye, bulbous eye.
Any reason why they targeted me? I live a mundane life.
Don't know. No one knows. Some say the veil between dimensions is thinner for others, thus mediums and psychics, if legit. Others have ancestors dealing with spirits. I was harassed by shadow people as a child. I grew to about 10 and they stopped. I don't know if children are simply more prone to see them or if they target children. Keep in mind, I'm of the belief the UFO, UAP, ghost, demons, and shadow people are all the same phenomenon. Disney World of the Gods ties a lot of it together and I recommend it. Also check UFO hearings. The recovered crashes have interdimensional properties, whatever that means. There is also another entity we share the planet with. They are physical third-dimensional being like us. They are the Hollow Earth people and have civilizations under the oceans. The atom bomb and appearances of physical, non-multidimensional craft coincided why? They share the planet.
I want to share this dream I had with /x/ because something in me is compelling me to share it. I don't know why, but I have this need to share. Before I begin, I want to say at the outset that this was a very vivid dream. I am able to recall the sequence of events from the dream better than most dreams I have. I would like some thoughts from you all on why this dream is so vivid and clear to me. Anyways, here is how it went. The setting of the dream was present day, but for some reason I kept getting cues that the year was 2022, so obviously in the past. The dream began in a classroom or school. The class was talking about recent events and the discussion was on recent contact humans made with aliens. There were news reports that the aliens were aggressive at first and were causing harm to humans. However, I later learned that the aggressive nature of the aliens died down upon their first contact with humans and instead the aliens were now taking a more observational and experimental type approach to us. After this discussion, the class boarded a school bus and the bus was taking us somewhere, presumably home because it made many stops. One of the classmates on the bus, I think they had some kind of handicap, was very knowledgeable about the aliens. He told me that you could sense when the aliens were close by because physical vibrations would ring through the air and you could feel these vibrations tingle your body. As the bus made its stops, I started to feel the vibrations. There was an alien in the bus, though I could not see it. I exited the bus and began to walk down a long road. The bus disappeared entirely and there was nothing but road for a little bit. As I traveled down the road, I came across people. These people were moving slowly, almost like they were in a zombie-like trance. They could barely move from the spot that they stood at. As I began to walk by the people, I felt my movement begin to slow and I began to walk as if I were in slow motion. Everything around me slowed considerably and I felt like I entered into the trance. I kept walking and finally reached a large building or structure. I entered this building and it was instantly familiar in setting. It looked very similar in layout to my elementary school from 2005 but on a grand scale. In the building, I came across this man. The man looked like an ordinary human being, but I instantly recognized that he was an alien. I can only suspect that the alien had shape-shifted or was using some technology to scramble my brain to make me think I was seeing something other than the being's true form. I instantly befriended the alien in an attempt to gain favor with these beings. I asked the alien various questions and he communicated with me just like you and I would communicate. He waved his hand at me and I instantly felt the slow motion I was in disappear, almost like he had ended the trance I was in. We continued to talk and the alien told me that the aliens were emitting frequencies and energy waves to control humans and put us in a trance-like state. The alien told me that they had stopped being hostile to humans and instead were putting us all through experiments for some unknown reason. I continued through the building with the alien and he showed me humans performing different activities, all in a trance-like state. I kept asking the alien more and more questions because I wanted as much knowledge as I could get about who they were and what they wanted. I could tell this was angering and perturbing the alien, so he put me back in my trance. There were other aliens nearby when this happened, but they all looked like regular humans. I never got to see what the alien's true form looked like, but I kept getting the intuition throughout the dream that they were insections or insect-like. Once I was put back into the trace, I could feel this strong gravitational pull whisk me away to a room that could only be described as what used to be a library. But the library was now full with extraterrestrial computers. The keyboard was labeled with foreign keys and symbols, and I got this feeling that the aliens wanted me to type something onto the keyboard. There were literally hundreds of computers and other humans were typing as well. I typed what came to mind and I could see printers printing out the results of the humans' inputs. I was removed from the computer by another human-looking alien and it told me I was finished here and I could head back home. It told me to talk out a large door and to clear my mind and I would find myself home. The alien specifically said if the mind-clearing technique does not work, there are other ways to get me home. I walked through the door, cleared my mind, and found myself not home. Instead of home, I was in a subway or train station-like area. Except the things around were no trains. They looked like trains, but in reality they were time-traveling vessels. The aliens had discovered how to time travel using some technique unknown to mankind. I approached one older female alien, still looked like a human, but I knew that was not its true form. This alien was very kind and she made me know that it was her job to make sure I got home. All of the humans at the depot were assigned random numbers and waited for their time-traveling train to arrive. The numbers would assign you a year and a location that you would arrive at. For example, you might get assigned the year 2002 and be transported to the state of Texas in that year. I told the nice older alien lady that I was from Georgia and I wanted to go back to that state in the year 2022 or 23. The alien lady said she would try her best to get me that ticket, but there were no guarantees. I received my first ticket and waited to board the time-traveling train. As a group of us waited for the train, we shot the bull with each other and we talked to another alien lady about the state of things. We asked the alien lady who they thought was the most intelligent human to ever live and she quickly responded with Albert Einstein. In fact, she said they used Einstein's theory of relativity as a starting point for developing time travel. The train finally arrived and I ended up in Wisconsin in the year 2013. This was not where I wanted to be, so I went into deep thought in an attempt to communicate with the aliens. A random stranger nearby approached me and suddenly froze everything in time. He was actually one and the aliens and asked me what was wrong. I told him I wanted to be in Georgia in the present day. He said he would work on trying to get me back to my time, but that if it didn't work I could stay in the year 2013 and after what would feel like a couple of months in that time would actually be several years and I would be caught back up to my time. He explained that time in the past moves faster than time in the present and future. Fortunately, this alien was able to find me a new ticket and I was then transported to Birmingham, Alabama in the year 2017. Obviously this was still not the right time, but at least I was closer in time to the present and geographically closer to home. The dream ended there. So what do you think? What do you all make of this strange dream? What does it mean?
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.
There's also a Rumble archive as a backup.